9, chapter 15, texts 27 through 30. And where we are is that King Kartaviryarjuna has just stolen the Kamadhenu, the desire-fulfilling cow, from Jamadagni Muni. So we will proceed with this. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Attarajani niryate Rama ashrama agataha Shrutva tattasya daratmyam Chukro dahir ivahataha. Thereafter, Kartaviryarjuna, having left with the Kamadhenu, Parashuram returned to the ashram. When Parashuram, the youngest son of Jamadagni, heard about Kartaviryarjuna's nefarious deed, he became as angry as a trampled snake. Next verse. Goram adaya parashum satunam varmakarmukam anvadhavatta durmarsho mrigendra iva yutapam. Translation. Taking up his fierce chopper, his shield, his bow, and a quiver of arrows, Lord Parashuram, exceedingly angry, chased Kartaviryarjuna just as a lion chases an elephant. Text 29. Tam apatantam briguvaryam ojasa danurdaram banapara swadhayudam aineya charmam baram arkadamabhir yutam jatabir dadrishe purim vishan. As King Kartaviryarjuna entered his capital, Mahishmatipuri, he saw Lord Parashuram, the best of the Bhrigu dynasty, coming after him, holding a chopper, shield, bow, and arrows. Lord Parashuram was covered with a black deer skin, and his matted locks of hair appeared like the sunshine. Okay, text 30. Achodaya dasti rattashva patibir gadasi banarshti shatagni shakti bihi aukshuhinihi sapta dashati bishanas tarama eko bhagavan asudayat. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Upon seeing Parashuram, Kartaviryarjuna immediately feared him and sent many elephants, chariots, horses, and infantry soldiers equipped with clubs, swords, arrows, rishtis, shatagnis, shaktis, and many similar weapons to fight against him. Kartaviryarjuna sent 17 full Akshauhinis of soldiers to check Parashuram, but Lord Parashuram alone killed all of them. Purport. The word Akshauhini refers to a military phalanx consisting of 21,870 chariots and elephants, 109,350 infantry soldiers, and 65,610 horses. An exact description is given in the Mahabharata, Adi Parva, 2nd chapter, as follows. I'm just going to read the English translation here. It's a very long Sanskrit passage Srila Prabhupada is given here directly from the Mahabharata to describe what an Akshohini is. And mind you, King Kartavirya has sent 17 of these. 1 chariot, 1 elephant, 5 infantry soldiers, and 3 horses is called a pati by those who are learned in the science. The wise also know that a senamukha is 3 times what a pati is. 3 senamukhas are known as 1 gulma, 3 gulmas are called a gana, and 3 ganas are called a vahini. 3 vahinis have been referred to by the learned as a pritana. 3 pritanas equal 1 chamu, and 3 chamus equal 1 anikini. The wise refer to 10 anikinis as 1 akshohini. The chariots of an akshohini have been calculated at 21,870 by those who know the science of such calculations, O best of the twice born. And the number of elephants is the same. The number of infantry soldiers is 109,350, and the number of horses is 65,610. This is called an akshohini. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so thank you all for joining this morning. So we've just heard this description of what an akshohini is. And as Srila Prabhupada is offering us this direct description with all of the specifics. Hare Krishna, I'm sorry, it seems like someone is unmuted here. Okay, thank you. So we get this very direct description of what magnitude King Kartavirya is wielding. You know, such an extensive military phalanx, and 17 of them on top of that. So he's unleashing all of the chariots, the infantry, the elephants, and even these very powerful weapons. So we find that he's being confronted now by Lord Parashuram, who is a Shaktivesh avatar of the Lord. And Lord Parashuram has been upset by the fact that King Kartavirya stole the Kamadhenu, the desire-fulfilling cow of his father, who is also a sage, Jamadagni. So this is, Prabhupada explains in one of the previous purports, that the only reason King Kartavirya even felt like it was suitable for him to approach the ashram of Jamadagni Rishi is because he was puffed up with pride, because he was proud of his power. And he had acquired extensive power, even some mystic powers, and he had 1,000 arms that he acquired through meditation and through austerity and through a mystic sort of process. He had acquired 1,000 arms. So what we see here is that King Kartavirya is trying to use his abilities and trying to use his powers separately from the Lord. So Krishna explains that he is the ability in man, that any gifts, any power, any potency or opulences that we may possess in whatever small amount, or in the case of Kartavirya, it's a larger than average amount, but still in the grand scheme of things, compared to what Krishna himself possesses, it's just a tiny little fraction. So Krishna says, "I am the ability in man," and we see that anything that we have is coming from Krishna, and must be offered back. Not to be used against him, not to be even enjoyed separately from him. So enjoying separately from Krishna is also considered to be inimical. It's also considered to be a misuse of what we've received. What to speak of directly, in this case, trying to use our power that we've received from Krishna, to use it against him directly. So in Sri Upanishad, Krishna, we have this passage, Ishavasyam idam sarvam, that everything animate or inanimate within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. And we must understand what our fixed quota is, and to understand, to whom all of this belongs. So I'm just going to share here some similar shlokas on this point. So in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 41, Krishna says, Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam Śrimad urjitam eva tattad eva gacha gachatvam mamatejo misha sambhavam. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. And Srila Prabhupada's purport here is beautiful, short purport. It says, any glorious or beautiful existence should be understood to be but a fragmental manifestation of Krishna's opulence, whether it be in the spiritual or material world. Anything extraordinary opulent should be considered to represent Krishna's opulence. So we see here the proper understanding of opulence. Even the opulence that we witness in this world, it's not to be considered to be anything separate from Krishna's ultimate opulence. It's all considered to be a spark of Krishna's splendor. So similarly, once we're convinced of this fact that the opulences that we behold, whether it be, so-called material opulences or spiritual opulences, to understand that Krishna is the ultimate source of all of those opulences. And once one is convinced of that, what happens? One becomes inspired to render devotional service. So in Bhagavad Gita here, chapter 10, text number 7, Krishna explains this. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mine engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there is no doubt. Also, I'll read the first section of this purport. The highest summit of spiritual perfection is knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless one is firmly convinced of the different opulences of the Supreme Lord, he cannot engage in devotional service. Generally, people know that God is great, but they do not know in detail how God is great. Here are the details. If one knows factually how God is great, then naturally he becomes a surrendered soul and engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord. When one factually knows the opulences of the Supreme, there's no alternative but to surrender to him. This factual knowledge can be known from the descriptions in Śrimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures. So we see here that if we have the right understanding, if we've received the right understanding about where opulences come from, that they come from Bhagavan. Krishna is known as Bhagavan, meaning the one who possesses 6 opulences in full: beauty, strength, wealth, renunciation, fame, and knowledge. So any portion of such opulences that we observe in this world and others, even that we, may feel we possess ourselves, we need to understand that these opulences are coming directly from Krishna. And such opulences are only properly engaged when they're reposed in Krishna's service. So this takes the form of channeling back whatever opulences we may possess, that we may have acquired by whatever circumstance it may be. Sometimes, some may say that, if I've acquired an opulence by birth, if I'm born with great beauty, or if I'm born with great knowledge, then they may feel that it's coming from Krishna. But also we need to understand sometimes we may become proud of our own accomplishments in this world. So someone may say, well, my knowledge doesn't come from Krishna because I went to university and I worked very hard and I even paid money to go there. So first of all, the money is also coming from Krishna. Krishna is the source of all wealth. But Krishna is also the source of all knowledge. So even if we externally go through some process of reading or learning or acquiring knowledge, who has given us this ability to absorb, who has given us this ability to acquire knowledge and to grow and transform in this way? So ultimately, it's all like offering a candle to the sun. We hear this nice analogy. Whatever goodness we may, have acquired in this world, it's all a mercy of Krishna. And it's just like a little flame, little candle flame that we can offer to Krishna, who is the sun, the source of it all, in such a infinitely more expansive way than we can conceive. So Srila Prabhupada is sharing very directly what these opulences are. So when we perceive them in this world, we can understand the ultimate source of these opulences. So candle to the sun. Another example is when we go to a sacred river like the Ganga or the Yamuna. The practice is to offer the water of that sacred river back into the river. So one will take the water in their hands and pour it back into the river. So that's the nicest offering we can make, is, when we're in a sacred place, one is offering that sacred water back into the water, because what more do we have? What better can we offer? So anything that we've received by Krishna's grace, we want to offer back. So much of this has to do with our understanding of the purpose of life. If one is walking through life with the understanding that, okay, I'm here to enjoy, or I'm here to conquer, or I'm here to become famous, or I'm here to prove myself in some grand way, then of course we won't see the opulences as belonging to Krishna or coming from Krishna, and we won't feel very inspired about devotional service. That conception won't come unless we've received good ideas about the purpose of life. So of course, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, by the mercy of the devotees, we have an understanding of what the purpose of life is, bhakti, devotional service. And also we theoretically understand that it's all coming from Krishna. Whatever gifts we may have are coming from Krishna, and it's our duty, and it's for our ultimate good to find a way to offer these gifts back to their original source. But sometimes, even once we've received a clear conception, we may still struggle to live it out, to really absorb that. And the mind is very flickering. The mind is very flickering. And sometimes we're remembering, Krishna says that remembrance and forgetfulness come from him. So on the path, we may have periods of remembrance when we're feeling very inspired and cognizant of the ultimate reality. But we're dealing in a relative situation right now, where we're in this material world, where there's so much relativity, there's so much conditioning. Things are so, we're not often in a position to perceive directly the supreme reality, at least in terms of what we walk through in our day-to-day life. So we struggle with that flicker, where we have times of remembrance, especially in the Sangha of devotees. We're remembering what our real purpose is and what the score is, we can say, in terms of understanding this world and beyond. So even great demigods, very elevated personalities such as Lord Indra, Lord Brahma, they also become forgetful at times, and they try to conquer, they try to overcome their subservient position to the Supreme. So Indra, of course, we have the example of Govardhan Hill, Krishna's Govardhan Leela, that he becomes so upset when, rather than being worshipped himself, the Brajvasis are worshipping Govardhan Hill. And of course, in that sense of worshipping Krishna, it's Krishna's inspiration. He suggests that. So we have that example, and then Lord Brahma, we have several examples. One prominent is the Brahma Vimohan Leela, that he tries to trick Krishna, and he steals all the cowherd boys and all of the cows, and he really feels that he's pulled one over on Krishna. And of course, what does Krishna do? He replicates all of the cowherd boys and all of the cows and just puts them right back out in the fields, right back out in the pastures, while Brahma has locked the others away. And of course, Brahma is bewildered and humbled to see that no problem, here they are, they're back. So they're humbled at the end. And this is also what we're nowhere near the level of Lord Indra and Lord Brahma. So we should also be humbled in this way, that, seeing that whatever plans we're making, whatever propensity we may have to act independently of Krishna, that this will ultimately be foiled. And the good news is it's foiled to our great satisfaction. It's foiled to our ultimate, for our ultimate good. But the false ego feels very threatened by this. The soul is loving it. The soul is rejoicing and jumping for joy to understand our position in relationship to Krishna and to be reconnected. Well, we're always connected, but to deliberately, with using our free will, to connect to Krishna. Of course, that's very pleasing to Krishna too. Krishna wouldn't like if we're just forced to worship him or forced to serve him. The pleasure is in our electing to do that. And Prabhupada says, molding our life in such a way that we can serve Krishna 24 hours a day. So even our sleep, right? Even our sleep becomes a service to Krishna, rather than, oh, this is my time to relax and it's kind of enjoyable. And, why are we doing it? So if our endeavors throughout the day are just self-serving, then yes, we're sleeping in order to gain energy for our own pursuits, our own conquest, our own little mini God project in this world. But if we're engaged in service of Krishna, then our sleep is in his service too, because we're just recharging and rejuvenating so that we can go on with our service day by day and continue to make a progressive effort and attempt to serve and to become more and more involved in Krishna's service. With more and more, Adipurusha Prabhu shared with us that Srila Prabhupada said that we should double our service at one point. Is that right, Adipurusha Prabhu? That we should attempt to double our service every year. Yeah, so that's inconceivable. It's such a tall order. So if we're aspiring in that way, then whatever rest or whatever kind of rejuvenation or anything, maintaining body and soul together, are taking prasadam and so on. This is all in service of this ultimate goal. So it all changes. It changes the way that we live. It changes the way that we conceive of our daily activities. So anyway, going back to, even advanced personalities and great demigods become bewildered about this order of things, where we stand, where we're most properly situated. And of course, King Kartavirya is in the same position. He has become overwhelmed and blinded by pride due to the powers that he has acquired. So generally what happens if we become puffed up about something that Krishna has given? If we start to, use it for our own glorification, or if we think that we are the proprietors of what we've received from Krishna, it will most likely be taken away in some form or another. Or we'll be just disconnected from the power source. When we try to be independently powerful, we actually risk unplugging ourselves from the very source that's giving us power. Like a hand that's trying to act independently of the rest of the body. If that hand elects to cut itself off, we'll see very soon that the hand is inert. There's nothing that can be done without, the energy coming from the rest of the body. We need to feed the stomach, like Krishna is compared to the stomach in this analogy, that we need to feed the stomach, not that we're chewing food with our hand to try to enjoy independently. We feed the stomach, and then we trust that by extension, we'll receive whatever empowerment, whatever ability we require to serve and to live a meaningful life. And if we try to just live in a disconnected way, we're cut off from that meaning and from that potency, because Krishna is the source of it all. Another nice analogy I'm sure many of you have heard is, the zeros and the one, right? So whatever nice qualities we may have, they can be compared to zeros, numerically. And it's only when they're connected to Krishna that Krishna is the one. It places a one in front. So, even if you have thousands of zeros, that the numeric value will still be zero. But once you place one in front of it, then it can be a great value. So Kartavirya, he was exceptionally powerful by material standards. He had some mystic abilities. He had 1,000 arms. He's a king. He's a proprietor of a great kingdom. So what to speak of us? How can we become so prideful? And just as Kartavirya, he unleashed this enormous phalanx, this army of elephants and warriors and weapons and chariots. So sometimes our false ego unleashes armies too. Our false ego unleashes armies of excuses, justifications, illusory ways of thinking, self-righteous feelings that often come in the form of also like envy, greed, lust, anger. So sometimes we may catch ourselves unleashing armies to, maintain our false sense of being the proprietor. And, just for us to continue to act independently or forgetfully, of Krishna, we have our own defenses that come up in a much more subtle way. But at the same time, maybe they number just as high as this description that Srila Prabhupada gave of how many soldiers, 109,000. I'm sure we've all made many excuses, and we've found ways to uphold some false way of thinking. I don't want to bring all of you into this. I'm speaking about myself. But we find that these feelings are often stopped in their tracks when we take shelter of devotees who have really lived out their position of service and who are experiencing happiness, who are experiencing the fruits of this, even on a personal level. Their lives are so fulfilling, and they've done so much meaningful internal work also in terms of understanding who they are, and just not losing their individuality in the process, but actually seeing their individuality shine and come to light in a very beautiful way, all for Krishna and for his devotees. So whatever false ego battles we may have, we find that they are thwarted when we take shelter of close devotee relationships, and we hear these good ideas again and again from those who are living them out. So that's something in which we can be confident. We don't want to become prideful, and like in the case of King Kartavirya, and of course that's an ongoing struggle. But to be spiritually cognizant of our position, that doesn't mean that we become really deflated and falsely humble, or even despairing, or have low self-esteem. We can be very confident in the mercy that we're receiving day by day, and all that we've received from Srila Prabhupada, from our gurus, from senior devotees, and from Krishna, directly, the way he's acting in our lives. So we can be very confident in this, and it should be a source of great confidence for us. But simultaneously, we can be humble, knowing that without this mercy, we're nothing. We don't have anything substantial without the great mercy that we've received. So we're receiving wonderful mercy. We're receiving the best mercy. So that's a source of our genuine confidence. Not that we have to become falsely deluded that we are greatly powerful beings, independent of Krishna, but actually know that when we're plugged into the power source, we can be very, very confident in the mercy that is flowing, but recognizing that we're just trying to act upon that mercy, and we're trying to just go. Sometimes it's not like climbing a ladder. I forget where I heard this, but one devotee mentioned it's not like climbing a ladder, our aspirations in spiritual life or in this world. Sometimes it's like standing under a waterfall. The mercy is already flowing. And sometimes the only credit we can take is that we showed up, that we just physically placed ourselves in a certain place with an understanding that this may be good. This may be good for us. And sometimes it's even devotees who do that. Hey, are you coming? Can you come join us? So that's where we can find genuine confidence that the mercy is always coming, and eventually in time, our own attempts to act independently, our own sense of identity disconnected from Krishna, will be replaced by one that is more connected to the reality of the situation, more connected to the joy of recognizing that we're very insignificant, but at the same time, we have a profound connection to Krishna, and everyone has their own individual connection to Krishna. So this is a source of life and inspiration for all of us. So I'd like to thank you all very much. I'll stop here, and would love to hear any comments, questions, thoughts, and thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dina Bandhu, Prabhu. Great class, thank you. My just a quick comment. My crazy and uncontrolled mind was very happy to hear this concept where if you sleep to recuperate, to do service, then your sleep is service. And we should redouble our service every year. So my mind was, yes, let's redouble sleep. That's all. I'll let other devotees speak.
Thank you, Ananda Vihari Prabhu. That's very, very creative thinking, and it's very quick, And I just wanted to mention briefly, I have heard that in some holy places, some holy dhams, I heard it about Jagannath Puri in particular. I'd have to find the reference for you, but that sleeping in such a place is like offering dandavat obeisances constantly. So
sounds like a service for me. Yeah.
Hari. I see Jamuna Jaya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dina. Thank you for a wonderful class. I hadn't thought about the sleeping thing, but that's really funny. But there were two things you said that I just loved a lot. One is the reminder of the mercy being like standing under a waterfall. I love that so much. It's not, again, it's a reminder of like that we can only do so much, and that mercy is really coming down to us as opposed to our own endeavor. That's such, and that it's everywhere. And Danyadhara Maharaj has been reflecting often lately about like we have to change our perspective about what mercy is. It may not look the way we think it's going to look, and the way we may not even prefer it to look, but that it is indeed mercy, because Krishna is ever wonderful and ever kind and loving to us. So to receive that rain, no matter how it comes down. And I also love the army of the false ego. Mine has nuclear bombs that it likes to send out. So, thank you for those things. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Yeah, we have a comment here from Rohini Prabhu. Thank you, Rohini. Very, very good question and a challenging one. Hare Krishna, what if one's service is taken away by circumstances outside of their control? Yes. So, yeah, we may find that this happens, that, as much as bhakti is independent, bhakti is always independent. This is important to understand, that we can't order bhakti, and bhakti can't, force it. Bhakti is just independent of any institution, of any authority. Bhakti does just come. Of course, we have these wonderful institutions that are receptacles for bhakti. At best, they're boxes that safely protect and contain devotional service and opportunities for devotional service. So bhakti is always independent in the sense that even if our service may be taken away in some way or another, more service will come if we're sincere about, desiring that deeply, because Krishna himself is very eager to facilitate those who are wanting to serve him. He has a special he has a special affinity toward those who are serving him or aspiring to serve him. In Bhagavad Gita, he says, I am not partial to anyone. But you'll see when you look at that verse that the next verse, he makes an exception. He said, I'm not partial to anyone, but then he contradicts. He says, but those who serve me, those who worship me, they are especially dear to me. Please forgive me, I'm paraphrasing, but Krishna expresses in this way in Bhagavad Gita. So bhakti is independent, and what we want to try to do is we want to try to find like-minded association. We want to find association in which our gifts, our abilities, our desire to serve. It's not always that we choose, I only want to serve in this way. But it's also okay to express, I'm inspired to serve in this way. If there's any useful, way that this can be done, I would be inspired to do so, because generally we find that when devotees are serving according to their own inspiration, things just really blossom and flourish in a beautiful way. So if our service is taken away, what I would say is to trust that if our desire for devotional service remains strong, and we remain prayerful and hopeful about it, that things will be rectified. Maybe not that particular service, although that's also quite possible, but that a service will come along that captures our heart, captures our attention, that we feel naturally inspired to put our time into. And I can just say in my own experience, it's a gradual process. There have definitely been services that have come and gone, but hopefully, if we're acting in service of the ultimate principle of desiring to serve, looking for service, praying for service, which of course we're doing every day when we're chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Prabhupada gives the translation of, "O Lord, O energy of the Lord, Radha, please engage me in your service." So in this way, we're carrying that ongoing prayer in the heart. And also, I just wanted to say, just on a practical level, because it's a very challenging question, and I appreciate it a lot, that, if our service is taken away, you're making it sound like, circumstances outside of their control. So maybe if there's some issue directly with devotees or something in that way, that may be part of it. So also we're always in a good position to try to express our hearts and to interact meaningfully and humbly, but also truthfully with others in our community. We all need those kinds of interactions. So that may be part of it. And otherwise, on the directly kind of spiritual level, between us and Krishna, we keep that prayer going, that we may be engaged in a way that is pleasing to him and also, life-giving for us and something that we can sustain. Devotional service is called everlasting and joyfully performed. So in that way, we seek service that we can perform joyfully, and it does come according to our sincere desire. So yeah, these are a few thoughts, and hope that's helpful in some way. Questions regarding being forced to move away. Hare Krishna, thank you for sharing that. Being forced to move away. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's very hard. We put down roots in a community, and there are devotees with whom we're very familiar, so many loving relationships, and that's painful to move away from that. What we find, Vaishnavas are compassionate. We have the Vaishnava Pranam, Panchakalpatarubhyascha. So they're like desire trees, and they really want to fulfill the desires of everyone. Especially, if that desire is for service, there will be devotees who are just clamoring to facilitate you, and it's just a matter of connecting in that way. And yeah, it's hard to totally reintegrate into a new community. It's very hard, and it may start with a devotee who has affection for us, to look for those affectionate dealings with devotees, and that maybe somehow through that we may be facilitated in a service, and also that sometimes we take the first step. Make your service known. Make what you can offer, make it known, and in that way, devotees will see, and they'll be inclined to facilitate you in that way. But yeah, definitely, no matter where you go, bhakti will follow. It doesn't exist only in one place. We know that it doesn't just exist in the temple, and similarly, it doesn't just exist in one locality. So we just pray that wherever you're going, I don't know if you're actually going somewhere or if this is hypothetical, but certainly we pray that bhakti will follow you wherever you go. And in fact, that where you're going, that path is being laid out by Krishna. So, thank you.
Dina Bandhu Prabhu, I can relate to what you're saying. Hare Krishna. So yeah, recently having moved to a DC community, I totally relate, where you take the first step and then devotees are there, willing to help. And I like how you said, literally yesterday I'd gone there and then they were engaging me in service and so on. So of course I do miss the Bhakti Center dynamic in the community as always. But thanks for expressing that. I can relate.
Thank you so much, Sundarananda Prabhu. Yeah, it's nice to see you, and it's heartening to hear that, because as soon as I saw you come on the screen, I was remembering, oh, this is exactly what just happened with Sundarananda Prabhu. Yeah, that you moved to a new place, and I'm happy to hear that it's getting to the point where you're starting to feel facilitated in some service there. Yeah, the different communities that definitely have different dynamics and different moods, so that's a real thing. But yeah, the fact that service is at the heart of the community. So it has been that way for you, Prabhu, that you're starting to feel like there are ways for you to plug in?
Oh yeah. Yesterday I'd gone, and then the first thing was when someone asked me to wash the plates, like in the daily kitchen, and then before I knew it, there was some kirtan, and then they asked me also to help with the with some cooking and so on. So services are aplenty. Yeah.
It's nice to hear. Hare Krishna. Anyone else have any questions or thoughts? Hare Krishna Prabhu, any reflections on what we spoke about today?
Well, we can say it was taken away, but we can say, see Krishna's loving hand behind it. And Krishna is directing the wandering of every living entity. So we don't say it was taken, we say, Krishna, this is what you're doing now. I didn't understand it. I didn't expect it. I would not prefer it. How can I serve you under this circumstance? And you answered very nicely that if we have that desire for service, Krishna will reciprocate and give you. Sometimes Krishna is giving us situations that we don't think we're qualified. Oh, I can't do this with the skills I have now. Therefore, I have to acquire some new skill. And we keep that Krishna consciousness that, Lord, okay, well, now what? How can I serve you under this circumstance? And I'm not regretting it. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not puzzled or frustrated. I'm just thanking Krishna, not just tolerating it, but thanking Krishna. Okay, thank you, Krishna, for everything the way it is. How can I serve you into this room? And there's no problem. There's no shortage of devotional service. Like you said, there's no place where there's no devotional service. There's no time. Even Vasudeva was in prison and his child was born. So in his mind, he offered thousands of cows, right, to the Brahmins, right? Under any circumstances, we can desire service and we can do our humble best, and Krishna will be pleased. How wonderful is Krishna? I've got to go move vehicle. Okay, Hare Krishna, glories to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Hare Krishna. All glories to Prabhupada. Yeah, so this is definitely an important point too, that devotional service is there within the heart. I'm thinking of the story, I believe it's recorded in Nectar of Devotion, about a saintly person who was very poor, was meditating upon how to serve Krishna. And that meditation became very, very real within his heart. He was doing manasa puja, seva in the mind. And he cooked sweet rice for Krishna in his mind. He didn't have the Lakshmi or the facility to actually make it physically. So he was offering it in his mind. And then what happened is he was meditating, and he meditated very carefully, the ingredients, and he actually, just like he's cooking it. And when the time came that it was finished, he wanted to check the temperature. And he went to check the temperature with his finger. And what happened is that physically his finger became burned. He felt, he could feel the heat of it, and his finger became burned. So devotional service, even when it's going on within the mind and the heart, there's nothing false about that. It's not in vain. And again, it's an intention. Like we talk so much, and even in secular circles these days, it seems like it's very common for people to talk about setting intentions. So we can't underestimate the power of setting intentions, especially when it comes to bhakti, because in a certain sense, it's already real when you're doing that. It may take some time to manifest physically in front of our eyes, but when we're setting that intention, we're showing Krishna our desire to serve. And in a certain way, we're already engaging. Just like with chanting the holy name. Chanting the holy name is like, you can say that it's the means to an end. We're trying to connect with Krishna. We want to serve Krishna. We want to ultimately reside with Krishna, whether in the heart or in his abode at all times. So we're trying to do that. But the trick is that actually while we're chanting, we're kind of already doing that. We are spending time with Krishna in chanting. So sometimes in bhakti, the means and the end are absolute. So even if the service has not manifested yet explicitly, before us in terms of our way to actually engage with it in our day-to-day life, if we are spending that time setting the intention and praying for devotional service, in a certain way, we're already doing devotional service by doing that. So Yeah, it's just, I guess, stages in which it will emerge and manifest according to Krishna's arrangements. So, any other thoughts, comments, questions, reflections?
I'm rushing off.
Karthik has a question in the chat board.
Oh, thank you, Kartik. And I heard Gail speak. Gail?
Yeah. Just quickly, I just wanted to, because I have to rush off. I just wanted to let you know that, you made so many beautiful points. I was ditto with everything that Jamuna Jaya said, about all the points that she appreciated and all the points that came thereafter. So I just wanted to squeeze that in before I have to rush off right now. So Hare Krishna, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Gail. Thank you so much for joining. Happy to hear your voice. Thanks for the encouragement. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, yes, Kartik Prabhu. Let's see. So, how does one distinguish between Krishna's will and our free will? Yes, that's a tricky one. Sometimes the latter can appear to be the former. Sure. Yeah, it's very hard. But the prescription that we hear most often for distinguishing between our will and Krishna's will is consulting Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So this trifecta, because if things are in the right place, we're generally going to get a resounding instruction, resounding feedback from those three sources, because the sadhu will speak from Shastra, Guru is a sadhu, and so if we ask, if we're able to ask our spiritual master or our mentors in bhakti, if we're able to ask sadhus, advanced devotees who we trust, and also they may show us directly where we can find shastric support for a certain idea, or we seek it ourselves in our study, or we ask, where we can find shastric reflection about a particular idea. So that's usually how we can do that. That's kind of the most directly prescribed way to do that. If we have an idea, if we have some inspiration, we want to see if it's really Krishna's will. That's a very good indication to consult with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Because then we know that it's sanctioned, that it's already been laid out for us to see. Krishna gives so many instructions in Bhagavad Gita and through his devotees. Sometimes those instructions are already there for us, and sometimes it's like you just have to. I find in my own life, I have a question, and sometimes I read a lot, and sometimes I'm kind of a little distant from the practice of reading. It's something I aspire to work on, but sometimes if we just read a little bit more or read a little extra, the answer will jump out of the page. So that's a really nice thing. But also we can pray about it. This is a very personal thing. Krishna, I'm not sure if this is your desire. I'm not sure if this is your will or plan. From my limited perspective, according to my own imperfect perception, this seems like it could be a very wonderful thing. Or vice versa, from my limited perception, this seems like it may not be the right thing for me. But Lord, please make it clear in my life. Please show me how best I can proceed, in a way that's pleasing to you, according to your will and plan. I want to be acting according to your will and plan, so please guide me. Please send the right people, the right ideas into my life, so we can kind of pray in this way. And that's certainly, if we're praying in that way regularly, we get all that much more assurance that what we see and what we're being shown is in line with that desire and that hope. So that's something that can be very helpful. And also, just on a practical level, the satisfaction that we feel in our heart can often be an indication. Of course, we hear, in the Bhagavad Gita that spiritual activities can sometimes be like poison in the beginning and like nectar in the end. So it can have a rough start, and vice versa, though. Material activities that are a little disconnected from Krishna, they feel like nectar in the beginning, but like poison in the end. So sometimes we can also gauge according to how nourished our hearts feel if we're doing something that's just kind of our own whimsical idea, it's probably going to peter out. It's probably going to come to a halt. Whether practically speaking, like it kind of stops working out, it kind of burns out, or we internally burn out. We feel, this is really not giving me satisfaction. This is really, maybe it's not right. So that's there. And conversely, if we're acting according to Krishna's will and plan, we will be likely to feel a very deep satisfaction in our heart. It may be a little time released, it may take a little while for that to dawn on us, but we'll have that encouraging feeling of, wow, I really do think that there's something to this, there's something here, and we do follow that. But of course, in consultation, as mentioned earlier with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, then we're pretty safe. So I hope that that's helpful, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So yeah, I mean, we have some time if anyone has any thoughts. Otherwise, we can conclude, but very much open if anyone has any reflections or thoughts.
Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Dina Bandhu Prabhu, our dear presenter, and everybody in the audience for your questions, reflections. Have a wonderful day. It's our choice, whether we see it coming from Krishna or from karma. It's always our choice. So let's not forget, Krishna's got our back. Have a wonderful day. Remember Krishna. He's real. It's all real. It's all real. Okay. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Haribol.
Thank you so much. Haribol.